The question is, was it worth it? And that is 100%. I would not change the fact that I went down this path. I'm Jeremy Fremin, president of Certified Boom Repair and Anchor Machine and Fabricating. I started out as an electrical engineer by training in school, did a little bit of time as a design engineer in private industry, then spent about 15 years as a technical officer in the intelligence community. About 15 or so years into that process, a friend of mine and his brother sold their company in New York, and he invited me to leave government service and join him in a private equity-backed business. I was in a group, we mentored people leaving government service. And so over time, that organization developed into where we would have annual conferences and that sort of thing. So one year, there happened to be a speaker that was a former agency employee, and his little session was about, hey, here's how you can apply your CIA experiences into private industry and owning your own business. And he said, the first thing you have to do is read Buy Then Build by Walker Deibel, and it got me connected with that book. Not only was it like a framework, I'm big about frameworks, but it was also just what I call the ethos of his approach, right? It was very much about build relationships, being genuine, be you, don't be somebody else, all these sorts of things that just felt very comfortable. And so I started seeing a path to doing what I ultimately wanted to do. So I had an initial interview like everybody does, or did at the time with Chelsea. It seemed like a great fit, but one of the things I realized during that conversation was you really needed to be completely all in on this and make the decision to do this before you start trying to do it. At that time, I was like, I don't know that this is the right time for me. I started dabbling in search. I started, talking. I did talk to a few sellers. And over that next year, I realized, okay, I really want to do this. And I really want to do this with kind of the support structure that was there. Reached back out to Chelsea and went back through the process and ended up committing and joining the lab, which was a key step along the way. I had some early meetings with sellers and then ultimately came across Certified Boom Repair, started meeting with the seller, immediately hit it off with the family.
I started this company in 1982 and owned and operated it till about 35 years later.
One of the things in my criteria was that it was a family-owned and operated business for multiple decades, because that told me a lot about how they do business, how they treat their employees, how they operate just fundamentally. And that was important to me because to me it was going to be as important for me to fit into the business as the business to fit into me.
They had a couple opportunities. JP Morgan Chase was interested in buying the thing. And that would have meant that their boss was some accountant with a spreadsheet in front of him. And they said, no, we're not going to do that. And Jeremy came along and it was different. He wanted to run it himself.
Put an LOI together. It was my first LOI that I had submitted. First LOI, first acceptance. The night that the seller went to countersign my LOI, he called me and he said, hey, we have other offers. We really want this business to go to somebody that we trust, that will take the business in a direction that our family would have taken it, and we think you're the right guy. I'm going to sign this LOI, but I want to make sure you really want to do this. That just made me want to do it even more. Ended up being two businesses at one time. The machine shop at the time was a wholly owned subsidiary of Certified Boom. I always tell people, if you're going to buy one business, you might as well buy two. As we approached closing on the business, I met with the founder and his wife for breakfast to get to know them. And one of the questions that he asked at the end of that breakfast meeting was, they have a scale model of an F4 here on site that his sons had made for him years ago.
I got my Air Force wings in July of '67. We were all going to Vietnam at the time. Air Force had transferred a bunch of short takeoff and landing cargo planes, flew that for a year, but still wanted to fly fighters, so volunteered for another tour and they gave me a fighter, gave me the F4. It's a 1/6 scale model. Multiply everything by 6 and that's how big the real F4 was.
He asked me, he said, well, what do you plan with the F4? And I was like, well, I was assuming that you would want to keep it. And he's like, well, I kind of feel like it was, part of me and part of the business, that I developed and ran and grew over 40 years. I'd kind of like to leave it there as a monument to the business. Would I be willing to do that? And I was like, heck yeah, I would be willing to do that. I mean, that's one of the key components of why it's so much connective tissue between our families, even though we didn't know each other before this whole process started.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you can stay here. I'm the founder, and that was what I did in my very young days.
We have it prominently displayed out in the front like they had, American flag rolling over the top of it, and plaque that talks about all that gave their lives in the Vietnam War and a little bit of his story. So Certified Boom Repair is focused on heavy equipment and crane repairs. Our intellectual property is really around crane booms, so stick booms, lattice booms, all different shapes and sizes, and that can be in cranes, it could be on truck-mounted cranes, it could be on other aerial lift equipment, telehandlers, basket lifts, that kind of stuff. And then we also do mechanical repairs for those same machines.
So the shop is broken up into two different sections on this side. We've got the mechanic area with these 4 bays are all for heavy equipment mechanics. We've got a 10-ton overhead crane here that we're able to maneuver large pieces of equipment, and when we have to assemble and disassemble large booms, that is critical for the safety and practicality of doing some of these repairs. On the other side is where our welding shop is, and that's where we do all the fabrication and welding repairs to things. In the busy times, we could be stacked 4 machines deep along that wall.
Kind of 2 lines of business. One is primarily a repair business around manual machining, so large industrial components for municipalities, water systems, drilling equipment, large manufacturing equipment, those sorts of applications. We also do a lot of work, interestingly, with carnivals and amusement parks. We work with a lot of local manufacturers, manufacturing and running parts for them to do assembly for consumer and business end products.
We've got another piece here that the customer did not specify what it's actually for. So we'll go ahead and measure both of these, get a model of that for exactly what he wants.
Shortly after closing, it was exciting. To some degree, a little bit of a dream come true, right? I now am a business owner. So there's a little bit of euphoria that you have to get over. And then, the next day you meet the staff and you prepare for and initially, deal with their reactions to some of these guys have been here for 16, 18, 25 years. They now have a new boss that they've never heard of, never met before. How is this going to be different? What does this mean to me, right? Luckily, I've made a career in change management, so was as prepared as I could be for those things. But then you just jump right in and start learning the business.
It's always new when there's a new owner, trying to learn how he would operate different than the old owner, but I think, it's definitely for the better.
I think it went pretty smooth. No real hiccups in the process. I think he has plans to develop the companies, grow them even bigger than they are. He's stepping in, learning all the different things they may need to be doing over there versus over here are 2 completely different things. He's got basically 2 trades he's trying to learn right now. So
I was fortunate when I arrived that all of my key personnel, and frankly, pretty much everybody in the company stayed. I didn't lose anybody early on. We have hired additional resources, and we'll continue to do that. I'm investing right now in people. This is a services business at its heart, and no business gets anywhere without people. The biggest challenge of the first 100 days, I think, was just the breadth of different activities that the businesses have, right? I'm not from this industry, so I don't have a welding background, I don't have a mechanical background, I don't have a structural background, I don't have a machinist background. And I had a great relationship with the sons. One stayed on for 60 days. We basically ran the business side by side for that period of time, and then just trying to build my comfort level on, how am I going to do this once he's gone. The other brother luckily stayed around for much longer than that and helped with the machine shop. He was focused on the machine shop side of things. So that helped with the comfort level of how are we going to transition these activities. I operate my life through self-doubt. My success is because of self-doubt. That is partly what drives me. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, but I also I've always had imposter syndrome. I've always had doubt that I am able to do the things that I do, but I think that drives me and makes me better prepared than most, and probably better prepared than I probably need to be in a lot of scenarios. One of the things I was looking for in my deal is I started off with a smaller SDE that I was looking for, and partly that was because I wanted to have less skin in the game and less risk that I had. And one of the things I started to discover as we were looking at case studies and looking at other people closing was that it almost didn't matter the size of the deal. If you're signing on the dotted line for a personal guarantee at a couple $100,000, you might as well sign on the dotted line for a few $1 million, because as long as you can qualify for the funding, it's gonna crush you if you go bad anyways, right? Since acquiring the business, honestly, it's felt like I've been here much longer than I have. It's been very comfortable. The staff And especially the senior staff has stepped up very quickly to take on additional responsibilities to really help run and manage the shop. We've rapidly built trust with one another, which is a key component of this. Without that, you can't get any of these things done. I'm not going to do something just to save money for the business. Either make things cheaper for the employees for their benefits or improve the benefits in some way. After having been here for 15 months, I'm starting to understand kind of the cyclical nature of the business and where the ebbs and flows are, and then kind of how the cash flow. That was the biggest challenge early on, is just understanding, okay, what is the next quarter going to be? What's the next month going to be? And then how do we anticipate that and plan for it? We are focused on inbound work because of our reputation and the great work that we've done over 4 decades in this industry. Kind of the next step, I think, is how do we drive and be more intentional about the work that's coming in the door. We'll always work with the people we've always worked with. We'll always continue to focus on our reputation and doing a great job and being accountable for those things. How do we go out and find more business, new customers that we can do similar things for? I feel more free to make decisions and run with them. Recognizing that not all of my decisions, not all of my ideas are going to work out. Some of them are going to be terrible, right? We'll probably lose some money on a couple of them. But the idea that I have the freedom to make a choice, be informed, and then go try it out, and then be willing to make a decision on something is working or not working, and then change direction or double down and keep going. That has been an exciting time for me. I wouldn't say that I've had a big change in my family life, other than demonstrating to my kids that, hey, you can do something that you've never done before, right? And they've seen me do that before, but this is dramatically different than the things that I've done. The ethos of what the lab and Walker has in his approach was what I wanted to be a part of. There is no perfect deal. There is no deal without hair on it, but having a community of common interest that you can bounce ideas off of, having that will take care of a lot of your concerns and get you over the hump to actually doing what you're trying to accomplish. I would not change the fact that I went down this path. I've wanted to do this for a long time. I don't know that I ever, until the last couple of years before doing it, started really defining what that was. Had no idea really before the acquisition lab how I was going to get there, but I wouldn't change it at all.